Welcome back to the Tough Love Podcast with Dr. John O'Connor. Today's guest, Anthony Codispoti, accomplished martial artist, financial guru, and longtime friend. Anthony, welcome back, brother.
What's up, my man?
So excited to get you on the pod today, brother. I am beyond proud of you and your recent accomplishment that you did that was like kind of just blew my mind. Just watching you do it and everything is about, and I just want to tell the world what you just did as far as becoming like I call you a ninja, but give them the breakdown of what that was all about.
A year ago, my instructor came to me and said, it's time you have to test again. And initially, it kind of struck me like, I got to test again. I've been in the martial arts for over 40 years, and for him to say, you have to test, it kind of struck me because I said, well, I'm a 7th degree black belt in Kyokushin, and what's 8th going to get me? What does that really mean to me? And
let me insert one thing for the audience, they won't know. I know you say it, they didn't say it. That means bare knuckle fighting? Or
Kyokushin actually means ultimate truth, but Kyokushin, the foundation of Kyokushin is bare knuckle, bare shin.
Okay.
So we predominantly don't wear equipment. Our fighting style is generally bare knuckle.
Awesome.
It's an aggressive, it's a hard style. It's a hard martial art.
And get back into the process, because I know that we did a ton to keep you mind, body ready.
Yeah, so when I committed to getting on this journey to 8th, it's a year journey, and I went through so many ups and downs and then had some real moments that I never thought I would have. Again, when I'm getting on this train, I was kind of trying to figure out, what am I doing? What's going to be my outcome besides just a stripe? Because the stripe wasn't that important to me. My teacher always says, yeah, because you have 7, right? So the 8th, but I didn't know that getting on this path would be absolutely a life-changing, altering event for me at 56. And it really made me go deep. And as I started training, because we have a testers class every Saturday morning, the testers get together and my students are all excited because, here's Shihan coming to test with us, right? To train to test for summer. And shortly into this training, I started to realize wow, I can't keep up with these young kids anymore. And I always prided myself on being the first and the strongest and the fittest of all these young kids. And
I remember.
And I was like, oh, wow, I have to rethink this. What's wrong with me? And then, being a full contact style, I started to realize that my body wasn't handling the contact like it used to. And so I had all these mind bombs that were just being dropped. And I was going home what am I going to do? So there was so much soul searching. And it was a personal and it was a solo journey. Because who are you really going to tell this to and explain this to?
It's going to understand it, yeah.
And then you had to strip back and throw the ego out and said, wait a minute, you have to redefine who you are to make it forward. What do I have to let go to move forward? And the journey began.
Excellent. So that was the amazing thing because, for me and, background for the audience, you've been under my care on and off for 10, 15 years now. And I've watched you be a beast. And, it's funny for the audience, they don't know you. You're not one for talking. And when your clients, students come in, their facial expression changes, like hearing, obviously this is going to be a big statement, but I love watching basketball Hall of Famers talk about when Michael Jordan stepped on the court and watching these guys that all come from, again, this is their hobby. And they're extremely successful. And obviously you have females as well, and there are 2 that are masters. They're like, no, Anthony's different. And, Shihan, very respectful of the highest regard. And again, a proud point for me because I love that. And I know when we were training side by side and I was still doing the basketball training, I was like, bro, I don't know how you do it because I'm not getting swung at, you're getting hit. And I don't know how many times I've worked on your ribs and I would be scolding you. I'm like, dude, can we put a pad on? I think they sell that big barrel thing. You're like, no, they got to hit me. And I was like, you're broken, dude. We can't fix this,
It's interesting. There was only so many ways for you to put me back together.
Yeah.
But here's what's really cool. I mean, I was fortunate enough to have people like you on the journey, because I wasn't getting there by myself. This was that one journey that, it wasn't grab a backpack, throw a bottle of water and a couple, apples, and I'm on my own. I really needed a team this time. But I took it serious, right? Like, how many people at 56 years old are still going to drive the initiative and really try to reach another level, not just for myself, but for all of my students, for the association, because it's bigger than me. So it was interesting. Yeah, think about how many injuries I had during this time. I tore both hammies, shoulder,
neck,
forearm, neck,
low back,
and all this stuff was happening.
Your
I think my feet, yeah. And I think one of the things that people never saw was, me going home or just laying in bed, and just that like self-doubt was creeping in.
Yeah.
And it's like, you got to push that fucking shit back, right? Because you have an outcome. And outcome driven, it doesn't matter about the injury. It doesn't matter about, the obstacle. It's the outcome. Let me take you back about 2 years ago. So I was down in my basement. I was at my desk, and I had so much going through my head. And I literally was saying to myself, like, is this it for me? Did I cap out physically? Did I cap out with my, ability to go to different levels in the martial arts and in the financial service industry? I'm like, is this it for me? And I remember it was a bad place to be, because I never felt that way before. And I definitely went on a major soul searching endeavor to figure out, what is the next thing for me? And I mean, it was bad. It was a low point for where I was at. And literally, I kind of shut everything down, stripped away all the minutia of everything around me, and said, I'm going to do a hard reset. Just got back to, drinking, got back to, eating right, just really putting a lot more into me and saying, what do I need to do? Each day was getting better and was getting better and was better. And I just kind of kept that vision. And then the magic started to happen. And I saw little glimmers. I saw the glimmers. And these little achievements became bigger achievements until all of a sudden, almost 2 years later, amazing things happened in my life. And I said, I cannot believe in this period of time how my life transformed.
Love it.
Yeah.
And I was talking that when we were off set, that last 3 or 4 months, obviously I was with you multiple times per week and we were putting out some fires, but every day with wealth management, you're dialed in. And the one thing that, again, it always makes me proud to call you a friend is you look at them like your extended family. How did you feel like you were able to service to them? And did you feel like that clarity that you had in your, in that restart, if you will, 24 months ago, where did that go when it was coming to a head in this last 3 or 4 months? Were you distracted or were you locked in?
I was totally locked in. Mm-hmm. I was locked into the outcome. And, when you talk about, the financial service industry, the martial arts, or just friends in general, and just people, in life, I love to help. It doesn't matter if I wasn't in the financial service industry, if I wasn't a martial arts instructor, I would be doing something that I could have an impact on people, right? Because I love to help people. And I think that's really important. And what was interesting, John, was when I started to, particularly on the financial service side, people was like, oh, it's not all about the money. I'm like, no, it's not. It has nothing to do about the money. And yes, it's about the money, but no. The outcome is, am I taking care of my clients? Right? Are they having great outcomes? Am I really helping them? They call me with an issue and like, boom, I'm there. I'm like a fireman, putting out fires or, whatever it may be. The martial arts side, students, listen, we're there to inspire the student as well. They're going to have bad days and you have to help navigate them through that.
Well, obviously you've been one of the guys that I center around when I'm doing my networking, where I put like all alphas in the room. And one of the things, and I'm always a student of other people's games. I feel like that's how you really just sharpen the blade. And it was very cool when you said, I have a guy, like whether it's the accountant or an attorney for wills or this or that. And it was powerful to see. And I've watched that for over a decade now. I'm blessed to feel that I'm one of those guys, that you're very quick to insert yourself, to your point, is to help.
And that's what I kind of coined the word the ninjas, because I've always said to people, I was a very good connector, right? So if there was a need and it had nothing to do within my sphere, I knew somebody that was like, when somebody got hurt, I didn't even question it. I said, you got to call Dr. John. I don't want to talk to you anymore about this. Call Dr. John, because I know they're going to have a positive outcome. And I think that's very cool to have that circle of people that you have so much faith and trust in, that you can pass your best of people, family, friends, to you, and to know that they're in good hands, right?
Without doubt. I remember it was a very difficult time. It was just passing your father. And I always say, when people give me their kids or their parents, and I treated your father too, and I remember him holding court in the center of my clinic, and people to this day would ask about him. But your mom was hurt. I got on the phone with her. You knew she was the boss of the family, but it was, what I loved about it was seeing you shift gears as an alpha and go into son mode and like step back and let me do what I do. And, I don't think people really understand how much of a skill that is it's not a lot of times what we say, but how people feel from the words we choose. And you were like something along the lines of, Mom, he's the best. Let him walk through. And if he's not going to help you, he's going to point you in the right direction. And it just it was a level 10 in the room, and it went down to a 1. And ironically, I think she got better on her own over a little bit of time.
Yeah. But
it was amazing how once we de-escalated the situation, how everything got better.
Yeah.
Bringing it back, what I love to talk about is, you hit it, man. You're there. You're like a freaking ninja now. The one thing that was neat, that obviously you were celebrating your other people, and would you just hit 50,000 followers on one of your social media platforms?
Yeah, I think on Facebook.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Anthony in his right space is a monster in showing self-defense, mixed martial arts, and whatnot, and puts amazing content out from strong, confident, young female athletes and everything in between. But one of the things that I love to see from business owners when it's their family is how much thought you put into the write-ups on each one of your students that elevated their level.
Yeah.
And the gifts. And I even got a gift. Thank you very much. I think that goes as a testimonial across all the borders, right? I think business doesn't, you don't have the on face for this. I think you carry yourself across all of your walks that way.
Yeah, I think, what you're speaking to was when I was going for my test, obviously there was so many people that helped get me there. And I just was thinking of, what are some thoughtful things that I could give people that just showed them, number one, that I cared and I was thankful for them. But I also wanted it to be a little something where keep it on your desk, keep it on your bedside. So every time you look at that, I want you to think of, what do you want to accomplish? Be inspired by it. And there's going to be days that you're not inspired, and you look at that and you say, I think I gotta pick it up a little bit. So it's a special time, and those were very special gifts that I gave everybody, and you got one of the ninja gifts. But what I found to be interesting is when I got on this path, it was so personal because I got so introspective. I was really thinking about the transition of me in life. I went from just being known as just getting in there and just grinding it out, being tough, always just, always being that big life on the mat, and saying, wait a minute, I got to transition to something different if I'm going to have a positive outcome. And I had a lot of conversations with my instructor, Dan Solar. And what's interesting is, I've said this to you before, the quote, you can't read the label when you're inside the bottle, right? You can't read the label when you're inside the bottle. And here I am in the bottle. And you are just putting your faith and belief in other mentors, that they're going to give me the guidance and touches that I need to help move me forward. And you just have to have the faith and belief that they're going to tell you, and you're just going to do it. And I think that fast action for me is what helped get me to where I am. So it wasn't me sitting there, well, John, I don't know about that, but it's like, no, faith and belief. Like, remember when you said to me, Ant, you're done with golf until your test is over.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yep, yeah, God, he's right.
And by the way,
he was,
for the record, I don't often get that where I drop the hammer on him to tell him what to do.
Oh, yeah.
So I had to look in the mirror and get ready for this. Like I was putting on my best acting face for the Academy Award, because I wasn't sure how he was going to take it.
Grabbed my shoulder. He's like, you're done. I was like, I'm going to just tell you, I didn't want to stop because it's one of my great pastimes of just de-stressing and all that, but my body couldn't handle that hard of training, what I was doing for the martial arts, and then now let me tell you, I have the whoop. And what I find to be interesting is I could be in the sparring, lifting, pitting, punching, burpees, up, down, crazy stuff. And then I go on the golf course or the driving range, and my whoop day strain is harder for golf than it is martial arts for me. And I knew you were right. And as soon as I committed to stopping that nonsense and just keep focused on the journey to eighth, that really was a good wake-up call for me.
I agree. And the thing about it is you had a moment with your Shihan where I remember that because I was in a similar spot when I was pushing my training to get to elite, that when NBA players and WNBA players came home and I was aging, I was pushing them as hard as I could, and it was breaking me. And you were talking about, destroying the wood and the bricks and the cinder blocks. And I'm thinking to myself, those are broken bones. Okay. And I'm just processing it medically. And you're like, no, just go through it. But you were thinking about it. And that's never been a part of our relationship where you don't think, you react, period.
Right.
And you were thinking. And I was like, well, I don't know. You're a ninja to me. Like, how many do we have to break? Is it like 5 or 3? I'd be impressed with 1, but the reality was I was trying to get my head around it. Like, is it you in front of your students? Because you've always been that monster.
Yeah.
And then I was
big
like,
event there. Like, everybody's watching us.
Yeah.
And it was interesting when, I had torn my rotator, and it was awful. And it was like a short amount of time before July came. And in my head, I was like, I cannot believe this is happening to me right now. I got a break with this arm, and I could not move. And of course, we were on it, right?
Yeah, right away.
One
of the 9 body parts.
Yeah. But the interesting thing was, I didn't really fully know. Like, we got to the point where I had mobility and I could do what I needed to do. But I said to myself, this is not a question of will I commit to slamming my body into this concrete to break it, but what's wrong with me? Because we still don't fully, I didn't know completely. I didn't go get the MRI yet. And I said, man, I guess I have to dial it back. And again, that journey of ego, like, you have to let the ego go. So it was a little humbling. I said, okay, I'm just going to do 2 bricks, 3 bricks, and then whatever, which was nothing. It was very, very nothing for me. But it was humbling to get up in front of everybody and just break those little things. But it was interesting. The feedback from everybody was like, that was great. Well, that was nothing. That was like, I felt like a little child. It's like, no. It's like how you did it. It's like, and all of a sudden you start listening to this different, like, holy crap. Like, I didn't see it the way you saw it, but there was a lot of moments to get to that day, working through that weekend, and I was amped up for it. I was ready. Like
100%.
And usually, like, when I go into anything, it doesn't matter what it's going to be. I over prepare. I just keep going until, like, when people find out some of the things that I've done for other events in my life, they're like, what, are you crazy? And then I look at them and say, are you crazy? Because that's all you did for this? But when you over prepare, it's easy. And you go into the event, and the next thing you know it, something that should be extraordinarily hard becomes easier. But here was the difference too with my test. I always went into testing, and I've had many tests over 40 years. I've always gone in, like, still with a panic-driven, like, sense of, even when I'm there, I'm like, it's in my head. I got to keep going. I got to keep driving. And when I was like a week out, and I was in your office, and you're like, how you feeling, babe? And I'm like, I'm ready. I'm where I need to be. And that was interesting for me. So, like, but again, when you have good people around you, you have good mentors around you, and they're concurring, like, you're where you need to be.
Yeah.
Now I just got to show up, and now I got to do it.
The amazing thing, and today's pod is going to build into another one, but as we wrap this up, probably the amazing thing that I saw with you, and for me as a basketball trainer, coach, and player, I loved watching the history that Kobe and Michael Jordan made. And Kobe compounded Michael's success, and Michael was like first one in, last one out. Kobe was the first one in at 3 a.m., back in at 9 a.m., back in at 12 p.m. And he was like, I'm going to do it 3 times a day. And the way I calculated my math, that's 21 times a week, which is 3 times more a week than you. And in a year, I'll have practiced 3 times more. And the way that you would always talk about your conditioning at the dojo, and then the fight days versus the kata or whatever, like whatever the style stuff and this and that. That was all you, and the layering and the preparation. And so to me, that was how I looked at it. I was like, I'm not worried.
Well, you know what? Let me just say one thing. I love what I do. I love what I do. I love the financial service industry. I love to get up in the morning, go to my office. I love the martial arts. But when you love something to that degree, it's always easy being first there and last to leave.
Yeah.
Because, and mind you, let's just say, the Kobes and the Jordans are, on the floor there, 5 a.m, 4 a.m, whatever it was. Everybody else is sleeping. Everybody else is thinking about where they're going for breakfast. Everybody's thinking about their bagels and coffee, and I'm on the mat. And I always loved that. And that's my time. It's for me. Focus on what I want to do. And it's, again, if you love what you do, it's always easy to be first, on the mat.
The one thing I will say is I know that I test you. You don't even realize I'm testing you, but I don't know how many times I've asked you on the nights that you're instructing, you're the lead, and you never miss. Like, it's not even like it's almost like you have like a neurological tick to it. I'm like, oh no, I'm teaching time.
I'm going to tell you something funny. When I never understood how I do it, but there's days where, I'm working all day, then I get in my car, I go over to the dojo, I'm teaching all night, I'm up at 6 and I'm closing the dojo at 9. But I feel like when I step on the mat, something happens to me. I could be like my arm, my leg, I'm tired, I'm this. And it's funny, I shared with my students a couple months ago, I said, guys, you want to know when I'm really just spent and I just don't have it in me and I'm here and I got to teach? I said, when you see me get up, we go through the warm up, and the first thing I make you guys do is it's a step over and side thrusts. And side thrusts are hard and they're aggressive, but I do it aggressively. It's the hardest probably exercise I make everybody do. And I said, I do that? I said, because when I'm that tired, I'm going to find something that's going to inspire me where I know it's hard, and I'm going to just up my level and just do it. And it kind of just snaps me into that moment.
Shakes off the fatigue.
Whatever it is, It's just like, I'm going to do what's hard instead of what's easy.
Yeah.
And that's just not a tough guy thing. It's it's an outcome thing.
Yeah.
Like I still want I don't want anybody to come to a class and not be like, that was not, I didn't have a good outcome. I didn't have a good class. Oh man, Concha was tired, or Shion was tired today. Or I don't want people to see that. I want them to be inspired by what's happening on the mat,
Man of Steel, like you'd say, Superman.
Yeah.
There's no tired days, no average days. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Anthony, congratulations, first off.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
What an amazing accomplishment. So proud of you. I have to say, and a huge shout out to Memory Laser and Technology, by the way, because you guys did a great job of keeping my slightly older brother here in great shape with all the body parts we were putting back together. But most importantly, the good and the positive that you put into this planet, to your students and the people around you during this time period. Amazing. And a lifetime of it. It's almost like a lifetime achievement award to get that 8th stripe. Yeah. And so congratulations. Proud to call you a friend, and looking forward to jumping on a pod with you again soon, brother.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.